Hi there, I'm Lyndon Thorpe. Welcome LinkedIn members and also YouTubers. Welcome, I'm streaming to both today. So welcome to Lodestone Q&A. We're here every Friday at 9 a.m. BST, bit early I'm afraid, but so it's, and my beloved guests are in different parts of the world. So we found a mutual time that suits us. So hope you can join us as often as possible. Now, today we're going to talk about leadership again. There's an ongoing discussion about leadership because it is so important now. And many coaches, many educators and so on are very concerned because leaders are breaking down. And here in Japan, for example, we have a real responsibility suicide problem. 2024, more than 20,000 people took their own lives because of their jobs, directly because of their jobs, because they're leaders, and the responsibility was too much for them. Of course, Japan is rather exceptional, and it is changing, thank goodness, very quickly. So they will adapt. So without more ado, let me bring my wonderful collaborators onto the stage. We've got Ebi Sheila, you'll remember her from last week and the week before, and Dr. Jamusi Muhiba, my beloved. Our three of us, this is our time to really get to grips with this topic. And I'm so grateful to both of you for continuing on and making this very exciting. So let's get started. As usual, I'd like to just give a short presentation, if you'll indulge me a little bit, just to show you where I'm up to with the so let me just diminish you. I'm sorry. Let me just put you at the side for a moment whilst I just give this little presentation. And that will show everybody where we're up to. Now, where are my slides? Just a moment. They're coming. That's interesting. They were here a minute ago. They seem to have disappeared. Oh, strange. Yeah. So let me just indulge a moment whilst I reload them. I'll just reload them. They seem to have disappeared. Give me. Where have they gone? Change. Right. Well, that's interesting. Okay, let's just leave that for a moment then, and see if I can resurrect them from somewhere or other. See, they're right here, but they're just not loading for some reason. Okay, well, never mind. Let's instead do something that's probably much more exciting anyway, and get down to some questions. And I'll see if I can bring the slides up towards the end. Well, let me fill in the background here. We have been talking about leadership on another platform, and it's called Women's Business Connect Global. And we meet every Wednesday, and Dr. Jamusi has been giving us presentations about her research on leadership. And we've kind of got our teeth into it now. And so we are continuing on with this topic, and no doubt another presentation soon. But yeah, the topic of the last presentation we all attended was multi-generational leadership. And I think it's a wonderful topic. And I've been researching it too. And I've got some really quite interesting questions, which I'd love to ask you both. And then I'll put my opinion forward through my presentation if I can find it. If not, too bad. Shogunai, as they say in Japan, too bad. The first, mute your mic and we'll large. A real discussion. There we are. Great. Okay. Now, the first question that I came up with was, in your experience, how does the body hold leadership, wisdom? How does the body hold leadership wisdom that can't be accessed through the intellect alone? In my presentation, just briefly, I was going to be talking about the nervous system, the history of burnout, which, of course, as Dr. Demusi and I know, and I'm not sure about Ebby Sheila, but we know, used to be called nervous breakdown. But, you know, and it was hidden away. It was who had a nervous breakdown, got taken off somewhere secret, and we never saw them again. But nowadays, it's much more public, and it's called burnout, which I think is a very interesting label for it. But also, I was going to talk about how the body really holds all the answers to avoiding burnout. And in fact, I've written a book about this, and I'm going to be publishing it on Monday on Amazon. Wow. So it's a rather momentous moment for me because, burnout has been bothering me for a few months now. I've had lots of questions about it, and people don't seem to understand it, and they're really scared of becoming burned out. So I've written a book from the embodiment perspective, and it's nearly ready. It'll be published on Monday. So, in other words, my question, which you may have forgotten by now, sorry, is how does this wisdom, leadership wisdom, that we hold in the body, how does it get accessed through the intellect alone? Take no, ooh.
What's the question to?
It's a hard question, isn't it? Yeah, I think it might have been easier if I could have done my presentation, but I can't seem to find it, it's very strange. But another way to put this, perhaps, is that the body is so wise, and it holds everything you need for everything you want to do in your life. But people cut it off from the neck down because they think all the wisdom is in the mind. Now, between you and me and the doorpost, wisdom is not an intellectual thing at all. Knowledge is, but wisdom is something that we embody. And I saw this so clearly when I was working with tribal peoples. You know, they don't use the intellectual mind at all, not at all. And so everything is in the body, and they are so strong and solid. As Ebby Sheila knows, I think she's laughing, but I think she knows this. When we come into the West, we find people really digging around in their mind, just this little bit of their bodies, trying to find wisdom. Well, they never will. And that's really sad. And that's why I was very moved to write this book, and very glad that we started to talk about this leadership question. Because if people could get the wisdom from their body, they would avoid burnout altogether. They would balance body, spirit, and mind. Their wisdom would be cascading throughout the world. Question too, I think the wisdom of the world is hidden because people are just using their intellects, you know.
So do you want us to
Any
answer that question? Do you want us to give our
so
point of view?
sorry, Abby, I can't hear you. Just not.
Can you hear me now? I think it's your
I'm
internet.
going, I'm afraid.
Yes.
I think it's the internet, which it very often is here. Oh, now it's okay. Now it's stable. Yeah, sorry about that. Now, go ahead, Evashila. What did you say?
Oh, I was wondering if you wanted us to give our opinion on that question.
Yes, please. I do. Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
in my experience, the body often knows the truth long before the mind even catches up. And for me, this was to get to that point, but because, like you said, in the West, we're always in our heads. It was not until I was going through a lot of pain, and I had to understand my body and to understand where my pain was originating from, even though I knew the physical cause of my pain. Obviously, I was told by my physiotherapist, which was really weird, that it was more to do with trauma. And she said it is usually generational trauma. So I had to go into my body to find out where this problem was coming from in order to be able to heal. And one of the methods that I used, I used several methods before I finally got to muscle testing, which is where you kind of get out of your mind, but your body gives you the answer. So you ask the question to your body, and it's usually maybe a yes or no answer. So you phrase it in that way, and it can take you back to the root cause because the body never forgets. And I think that's your book, isn't it? One of your books, The Body Always Remembers.
Yes, the new one. Yes, The Body Always Remembers. The new one is called Your Body is Your Business Plan. And so I'm really directing it at business owners, and really good. But I'm just doing the final proofings, really. But yeah, I'm so glad to hear you talk about muscle testing, because that is a really good technique. I've done quite a lot of that in my past. I did most of the training of as an MD. I was going, that was what I was going to be, a doctor. But then I got to my 4th year and I decided I was very uncertain about mainstream medicine. And I didn't really get into that at all. I wanted to go off into natural health. And so I gave up my degree. I started work with naturopathy, reflexology, all sorts of body work. And I did quite a lot of work with muscle testing too. And I'm so glad that I did that, because I think I would have just gone down the wrong road altogether and never discovered all these amazing things I've discovered as a non-mainstream medical person. So I'm so glad. And yeah, I think that generational trauma is a really interesting thing. Here in Japan, we have a lot of connection with ancestors, and through the Buddhist pathway and also through the indigenous wisdom pathway, I've encountered a lot of ancestral wisdom. And of course, our DNA just carries all of that through, and we are the kind of leading members of our DNA line, ready to cope with the next era, as it were. A lot of ancestral, if you like. I mean, the kids call it that here. Even young people here respect their ancestors. And we're coming up to Obon time. That's next week, actually. And it's the time in Japan when everybody takes to the road and goes back to their hometown. So it's a nightmare to go anywhere. It's just a nightmare. But they're all going back to honor their ancestors. And so they go back and they clean the graves of their ancestors, which are a big deal here in Japan. And it's just so long. Students, my students, I would say, do you believe in the wisdom of your ancestors? There was no hesitation. And several would say, yes, I can see my grandmother. When I do something bad, she's there. And, I don't do it because she's there watching me. They really believe that this is true, which is so refreshing because I don't think Western university students would entertain it at all. In Japan, they do. The ancestral trauma or wisdom is all there. It's in our DNA, it's encoded. And so we just have to find a way to access it, which I think is a fantastic opportunity for everybody. Dr. Muiba, what about you? How do you feel about this topic?
You have made me enter into half a dozen questions. It's not a question.
Ooh.
It's absolutely. I am now facing something like 6 questions. By the time you have talked and
Wow.
Abby has talked, I'm done because
Wow.
I need 6 periods, 6 sessions to answer your first question. It's
Right.
wide. You have taken me back
Yes.
to what we used to call nervous breakdown. And I will go chronologically to all the questions that question mark, nervous breakdown. Yes, we used to call burnout. We didn't know how to call it. And I said yes the other day that we used to call it very tired. And if you are really, it's a huge burnout. It's extremely tired and unbelievably tired. And I can't cope with my fatigue. And it's all to do with tired. We didn't realize. No, it's far beyond. By the time you get a burnout, you're far beyond being exhausted because, as Abby mentioned, you could go to sleep for a couple of hours and you are no longer tired. You can stop washing the dishes and you are no longer tired. But when you get a burnout, it's profound. You have the feeling that some weird phenomenon has come into your life. I call it a snake because it sneaks into my life without me realizing. By the time you realize it, it's too late anyway. So when you did ask me how to deal with burnout previously, and I said very simply, never allow burnout to come close to you. Because now we have become aware of burnout. We know how it more or less looks like. So we can prevent it from coming too close by self-care. When you take care of yourself, I'm getting tired. That's time to stop and get some rest. So prevention rather, it's like any disease. Prevention rather than wait and, now I have got a stomach ache, let me do something about it. That's the first point I want. In the past, and here I'm connecting native, aboriginals, the West, the East, all of this. We never took anybody anywhere when people had nervous breakdowns. We would say, so-and-so is so tired. She would never, ever be taken somewhere else, as you were mentioning, in the West, because you are excluding the poor thing, very often women, excluding her from her natural, familiar background. And so you're going to exclude her even further. Now she's excluded because of this nervous breakdown. So she or he would always be kept within the family, within the community, within the village, the town. So little by little, and it takes no time, little by little, she would no longer be asked to do things. She would no longer be asked to cook or take care of kids. Leave her alone. She needs some rest. and it becomes rest.
Yeah.
She starts resting.
Yes.
She's taken care of, and she's no longer a caregiver nor a caretaker.
Mm.
And that would take her back. And this connects me to your other questions about wisdom. We often believe, but Edward Said in Orientalism did say, you know, the West and the East are not different. Aboriginals and people who come and settle are not so different. The difference is the cover up. When you think of the West is
Yes.
mind, the West is logic, the West is rationality, the West is not emotional. Watch a football match and you scrap all of this and you look at these tough men shouting, and then they win and they fall into tears,
Yes.
and it's tears all over their faces. They hide them. You can still see the tears. You still the emotions, and their faces are white enough to see them go red. And they hug and they cuddle, they go wild. And that is when you realize we are just human beings, East and West, natives, non-natives, all the same, as long as you don't go into that cover-up. And I can take it now to the personal dimension. I live with a family. Some of them are like me. Wow, they go wild. They meet somebody they've never seen in their lives. They hug and because they connect. And you have others, very cool. Cold, I would call them. Cold. Until they got a bird. A bird. And they started talking to the bird and loving the bird. And I looked at this lady who was cool like a cucumber, become soft and loving and hugging and cuddling and taking pictures with the bird on top of her head when she was praying. And the whole person changed. So it's,
Yeah.
I thought, it's where you love, whom you love, the context. And I'm sorry to say, when the bird died, I cried my eyes out for her, for the bird. She cried her eyes out. Never seen her shed a tear. She cried her eyes out. She was all of a sudden having shed the cover, the mask of what I call frigidity. She was a human being, like you and me, like anyone. So when you see the mind overcoming, it's a cover. Take the mask off.
Yes.
And you find the whole.
Yes.
Now I take you, and I'm sorry if I'm a bit long because your question was huge. I take you back to myself as a whole. I have never, ever dissociated mind from body, from my spirit, from my soul, from my mental capacities. It's one. When you see one, check the others, they are all aligned. All aligned. And don't, Mohiba, don't try to dissociate one from the other. It won't work anyway. It will show.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Great. Yes, we've got. I think these questions are not being asked by people. We're not accepting, I think, many of us, that there is a huge problem. And people, some of the coaches I'm involved with, they go ahead and they are really pushing leadership and writing about it and, really going full-blooded about this topic. But then you realize that leadership has become a kind of topic of its own without any roots in my book, because it's not related to human beings. It's become a theory. It's become a method or a theory, hasn't it? I do really feel that. And
you are right on the spot. Yes. Yes.
this is the problem, I think. And it's when we get three amazing women like we are together that we can start to really demystify this and bring it to the surface. I mean, who have you heard recently talking about nervous breakdowns and what happened when people had nervous breakdowns? The generations have moved on and they've just forgotten. The mind forgets. The mind forgets, but the body never forgets. And I remember very clearly when I was a young student, I've never experienced anything resembling a burnout or a breakdown at all. But one friend did. And it was absolutely horrific because she was a very talented musician. I started out life as a professional musician. I was concert pianist and cellist.
Wow.
And all my colleagues were all professional musicians, you know. And so, of course, musicians are hybrid people in a way because they are so focused on performance and so on. It's so nerve-wracking, and the whole business of getting the concerts and getting the work is like a rat race, really. And so people are so tense, or they were so tense. So she had this magnificent nervous breakdown in the middle of a concert. Yeah, she snapped in the middle of a concert and started to create like a mad person and had to be taken away. And as you say, yeah, she was taken away. We never saw her again. And I never heard from her again either, which was, we were quite good friends. Disappeared. Of course, older society with handicapped people, with anyone who was different, they would ship them off to a sanatorium somewhere in a mountain hollow, you know, so no one could ever see them. But now we've got this opportunity to equip people to deal with this or prevent it. As Muhiba says, I want to prevent it. Or help prevent it. And it's a much healthier climate in a way for us to. But as for leadership as a subject, I think it's just going round and round in circles. I don't think anybody's making any innovations. They're just kind of repeating and repeating at the same idea. I want to do something new. I want to break that continuous loop and get people to realize that they have this extraordinary resource at their fingertips, literally their bodies, you know. And when we look at the architecture of the human body, it's remarkable. It's a remarkable system. So, yeah, I'm so glad we're talking about this because I don't know of anybody else who is talking about it. We need to demystify what leadership.
I will be talking about it at Hannah's Summit.
Good.
That's
good.
my talk.
Good.
So we
good.
can discuss it at your own podcast just after a summit. It will be like a follow-up of that note.
Great.
And I will be quoting you saying, going round and round in circles, because that would be a quote that fits perfectly well into my presentation. Yeah.
Oh, super. I knew we would have similar views about this because we're baby boomers, aren't we? And we've seen we've seen so much going on. And in fact, one of the points I was making in my presentation, which I don't know if I will make now, is that we need wise people, and that means mature people. As we get older, the body may cognitively, lower its standards a little bit. The mind may get a little bit less alert or whatever. I don't think that's necessarily the case, but that's what medics say. That your systems start to deteriorate. But the interoceptive aspects, in other words, all the experience, all the emotions, really start to come to the surface when we're older. We start to realize that we've had this amazing life, and all of our experience is so valuable for other people. And so in terms of multi-generational leaders, I think we are so right to point out that we need the mature leader to have a legacy to leave. And I'm certainly, that's what all of my effort is going into really right now, leaving a legacy of my life's work. And it's not about money or property or anything like that. It's about my life and the wisdom I've accumulated. And I think that so-called elderly leaders are essential in any workplace, because we have lived, we have survived so much, and generally in the leadership circle, it seems that kind of experience is not appreciated or admired. In all the books I've looked at on leadership, it's the young people coming up that have all the wisdom. Well, I don't agree with that at all. I think it is the older people who have the wisdom. And so we need to make the leadership club listen to that as well, I think. That was one of the points I was going to make. But let's just move on to the next question. Ebishila, what do you think? What signals or shifts do you notice in your body when you're in true alignment as a leader? You're leading your clients and groups and summits and all sorts of things. And how does that compare with when you're performing? So there's this difference between presence and performance, isn't there? That's a big topic now. We need to be present, because if we're performing, it's coming from the mind, maybe. What do you think?
Okay. So your question is, what signals or shifts do I notice? So is that your question? Okay. So we always have to remember that leadership isn't just about what we know. It's about how we show up. So we need to remember that. So when I'm in a true alignment as a leader, my body often feels open and grounded. So watch your breath. My breath is steady. My shoulders are relaxed. My voice feels neutral. So none of the shallow breathing, because that's a sign of stress. So your body, where are you? So there's an ease in my movements, and I'm present in the moment. So being in the moment, being able to listen and take everything in, rather than sometimes, what I used to do is kind of think about future answers of what's coming up in the future. But no, it's about being present. So you're fully there, noticing how your body's reacting. So when I'm performing in leadership, I notice tension. So do I have a tight jaw? Do I have shallow breathing? And am I leaning forward, meaning paying attention? And these things come automatically, but when you pay attention, you notice that you're actually doing these things without realizing you're doing these things. So am I pushing for approval? So it reminds you that you just need to pause and be in the moment, to reconnect and lead from the center of yourself, rather than from the expectations what am I expecting people to believe? What am I expecting there? You know, just leave, just be you, be authentic, and be in the moment and
Yes.
focus. Yeah.
Yes. Wonderful.
So
Yeah,
those would be
absolutely.
some of
Yeah, and I notice. Right. Yeah. Wonderful. I noticed that you were aware of leaning forwards after, no doubt, after you'd been leading as a performer, and that's really interesting because that's the base of the spine. And as I mentioned before, this is the base chakra. This is the key energy source of the whole spine. There are wheels of energy all up and down the spine, but the one at the base, right at the small of the back, right at the end of your spine, is the key one. And if you are tense or tired, this is where you're going to really feel uncomfortable, aching, so on. And of course, I think in a performance situation, if we look at a lot of leaders who are performing, their spines are, wow, intriguing. They're often leaning forward like that, or they're, bending from the notch on the back of the neck forward, or something. And the spine, like a compass needle, really. If you are being authentic, then it's quivering to true north, If you're not, then it's really off, and your spine will really show that. So I think that's a really interesting point. The spine really is your, in a way, your anchor when you're in public, when you're speaking in public. And the base chakra is related to your the soles of your feet and the earth. If you're leaning forwards, that means the soles of your feet are not flat on the earth, and your center of gravity is really off center. The center of gravity is the solar plexus, just above the navel. If you're leaning forward, that really will tell me this person is not being authentic. And the spine is telling me that. So I've spent a lot in ways, and I think it's the most telling thing after the breath. You can always tell the shallow breath, as you mentioned, Ebby. The next most indicative thing of lack of authenticity. So I'm so glad you mentioned that. Wonderful. What about you, Muhiba? What signals do you notice? Because you do a lot of speaking.
You have been asking questions that take me in so many directions. I've got half a dozen answers. So each time you ask one question, you get me there. But let me go to where we are totally in a total alignment is authenticity. I had written it down, and I had both of you say it and say it and say it again. So it's to do with authenticity. Be authentic.
Yeah.
You never have to perform. Shall I tell you
That's
that in my
right.
whole life, in my whole career, which is practically 60 years, I can tell you I refused to be myself once. And let me tell you, it's when I changed jobs and countries, I went to another country with another culture, with another system. So normally we would put grades, we keep them with us, and we give them when somebody asked for them. I use this system. It was a different system. So I was told off. I was told, no, you don't do that. I said, okay, no problem. Here is the grade. And anyway, it's an F for a student who never attended. No problem. They said, no, there's a problem. You need now to apologize. I said, look, I will write down something. I wrote down a letter saying, I apologize. I come from a different system. No problem. This is the mark. It's an F for somebody who never attended. They said, no, that's not the way to apologize. A proper apology for. I said, what are you looking for? You want to humiliate me? What is it? What is it you want? They said the proper. Okay, proper. Give me a pen. I wrote the proper blah, blah, blah. That was not me. I didn't feel well. I said, okay, forget it. You don't have to feel well. It's a new country, new college, new context. Forget it. I forgot it for a month. After a month, I needed to go and meet the dean for some completely different story. I went into his office, and the minute I got there, the office went blank, went black. I couldn't see anymore. Whew. He said, please sit down. I sat down. And all of a sudden, I started crying my eyes out, crying and crying and crying. My body was saying, exploding, because I had kept my body under control. And even my mind under control. And my emotions and my spirituality and my intellect, everything I had kept down, accepting pressure from outside. So it's my whole body and mind that exploded. He said, can I call your friend? I said, you call no one. You just listen to me. You forced me to write a letter of apology to whom? To a student who had got an F, never attended. Do you know who I am? Now it's the intellect which is talking, not just my emotions and my body. I said, you took me in your college without ever reading my file. My file went to the ministry. They know I had the best results. I was considered the best teacher in my own country, in my own context, in my own university. You just picked up somebody who came from somewhere looking for money. I have not come looking for money. I have come for diversity, to be in another context. And I gave him a full-blown speech, and the poor thing couldn't say a word. He kept saying, can I call on a friend? No friends. My friend is what I'm telling you, I said. The guy stood up. In this country, people don't shake hands. He shook hands with me. He practically kept himself from hugging me, saying how sorry he was, because, he explained, I am under pressure, he said. I was under pressure from all these big fish who were telling me that's the son of someone very important. That's why I put pressure on you. I said, don't do this again. Don't do it. Not to me, not to yourself. I said, not to yourself. So you see how I go back to the idea of authenticity. All my life, be authentic. It will work. As Abby said it, as you said it. Be authentic and things will be smooth and nice. You try to put a mask. The mask is going to suffocate me if I put a mask. I put it once in my life. It didn't work. And that day I threw it away, went out free as usual, authentic as usual. And he went on.
Absolutely. I really empathize with you, because the same thing happened to me in Japan. Yeah, I was forced to give grades to students who didn't attend or were hopeless and didn't do any work. And I really objected and almost lost my job.
Yeah.
Because I just couldn't, I really could not do it. I could not. But in Japan, it's a different system, I think, because most universities here are private. There are nearly 800 universities here. We call them universities. They're more like sixth form colleges, really. But most of them are private. There are only 3 or 4 that are so-called public, and therefore subsidized by the government. And so always the customer is right.
That's it.
You know? And I don't believe in that in education. All my education was free, you know, and I just cannot be authentic. I cannot be not authentic, even in that professional situation where I risked losing my job. And I had a similar experience with the principal of my department, who said, you can't do this. You have to give the guy a grade because his father's really important.
Absolutely.
I said, well, I can't give him a grade. Similarly, he eventually realized I was overpowering him. And he decided to go ahead and interview the student himself. And I said, go ahead, talk to him. He has nothing between his ears. He's not motivated in any way to study. So he interviewed him, and he came back to me on his knees, because in Japan, you know, if somebody's done something wrong, they bow, they get on their knees, and they are so broken. You know, that's the kind. I said, "Oh, Thorpe Sensei, I'm so sorry. You are completely right. You couldn't possibly grade this student.
No.
In fact, we've asked him to leave." So
Best.
from that point on, they respected me, you know, and they never questioned my judgment. So I know exactly what you mean.
And that's why I
I've
speak
been
of
in that
respect.
position.
Yeah.
Like both of
They
you have
respect
said,
you.
Yeah, Ebishila,
sorry, I think there's a time lag.
sorry,
Like you said, when you're
I
authentic,
think there's a time lag.
you don't need to act, you know, and as long as your
No,
intention is good and your mind is clear, you'll be directed. The body will direct you in the right direction, and so you don't need to act. But I think because we are scared in
no, it's
ourselves, so
heavy.
we have maybe issues that we need to deal with ourselves, so like rejection issues. So, which you didn't have. You weren't scared of the rejection, but when you have the rejection issues, then you kind of tend to bow down. So if you're not being authentic, then maybe you need to go within your body to find out what you need to work on, so that authenticity can come out.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes,
You can't go wrong with
yes,
authenticity.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes, totally agree. And it's so heaven not to have to act, isn't it? I mean, you are yourself, and if people don't like it, well, they go somewhere else. But you know, the most important relationship in the whole world we have is with ourselves, isn't it?
Absolutely.
If we don't
Absolutely.
respect and honor ourselves, then what's the point? You know. Wonderful. This discussion could go on for hours, and I'm loving it. But I'm just seeing now that my slides have come back. So may I just give you a very, very quick view of what I was planning to do at the beginning that might have made these questions a bit more accessible. May I just give you a quick view? I'll put my slides on. Have a little look. So piece in leadership, and your body is at peace, and it's really thanks to Dr. Muhiba and Ebi Sheila that I've come up with this presentation. We had some key takeaways from Dr. Jamusi's presentation about action, mindset, and approach when we were in the Women's Business Connect discussion last Wednesday. I really got excited about the multi-generational idea. And so I wanted to look at what happens when we get older to the body. Well, the real divide is nothing to do with generations. It's somatic, you know. As I mentioned before, leadership matures in the body. Not just in the mind, although it's debatable whether it does even live in the mind, but with age, many things improve. The world doesn't see them as positive, but they are. As I mentioned, cognitive speed may slow down, controls may be, more difficult, but interoception is graded upwards, and we become much more present, much calmer, and therefore much more somatic. We are much more in our bodies when we're older than when we're younger. And really, your nervous system is your operating system. You know, we're talking about digital era now. All computers have an operating system. The nervous system is your inner operating system. This is where vagal tone regulates everything. I've mentioned the vagus nerve to you before, the master nerve. it regulates your voice, your breath, your presence, and it's your body that leads the idea and the experience and the reality of trust. It's not your mind. It's your body. Your body trusts or does not trust. From commanding to co-regulation. And presence is not really a position. Attunement is much more important than authority. So if we're performing, then we're all about speed and show and control, and I can see that a mile away. But if we are present, as Ebi Sheila said, we're all about breath. Our feet are really down in the earth. Our voices are resonant because we're with ourselves. And yes, elders matter because they have a legacy. 73% of female business owners prioritize building a legacy to leave for others over profits, which I think is a stupendous statistic. This is 2024 too. So eldership, we can call it, stabilizes people. And mentorship, and I believe that elders become mentors. And instead of dominating like younger leaders do, and especially male leaders, as we've mentioned in the past couple of weeks, older leaders resonate with their teams and so on. So the body is a kind of bridge, really. It transmits what I see as coherence across age and role. And therefore, we need leaders who are mature and wise, and they're in their bodies. And I can help you with this if you are watching our wonderful debate here from LinkedIn or from YouTube. I have devised a body awakening scan. You can take the scan, and then I will discuss the results with you to see how aware you are in your body. I've got a pathway called the Millionaire Path, which is all about training you to get onto that track. I've got the Lodestone Zinzino package, which is a combination of science and meditation to balance your body, mind, and spirit. And you can book a call with me anytime, free call, so I can discuss this further with you. And just before I go, next September, the 3rd of September, I'm starting a masterclass, which is called The Body is Your Business Plan. And this is going to be rather unusual. I want to encourage other speakers to come and co-host with me. So you can speak and share and scale your presence. And if you're interested in doing that and would like to be coached or mentored, I've met many people who I've invited who are too shy to go live, and they just don't have the confidence, So if you want help with that, contact me and I can mentor you. I've been teaching communication skills in Japanese universities now for the last 20 years. And Japanese communication skills are, what can I say, the most challenging of all because the culture doesn't really communicate. If students want to go outside Japan, they have to learn the whole system from scratch. Eye contact, they can't make eye contact at all, usually. And so I've experienced all this and I've devised a really wonderful system of mentoring. So if you want to co-create on my masterclass and be visible with me at your side, then please contact me. I'd love to work with you. And also, my book is coming out on Monday. It's called Avoid Burnout, Your Body is Your Business Plan. It will be released on Monday on Amazon, and all the secrets are in there. So please enjoy it and give me some feedback if you do read it. Okay, thank you so much. I'm so glad I could put that in. Maybe it was a bit out of context, but better to kind of put it in context than not, perhaps. So, Ebishila and Muhiba, thank you so much. Our discussion. We've got some super emotions flowing there. We've got real authenticity, really strikingly apparent in all of us. And we've got lots more questions to come. We've only tackled 2 of the 5 I created, and I think Muhiba's got another 10 or something, so we can start. Wonderful. I'm so excited. But yeah, I think we all agree this is a vital topic, and nobody is really talking about it truthfully. And so I'd like to blow open that, closed approach, and let's start to disambiguate and demystify the whole business of leadership. Thank you so much for and Muhiba. I hope you'll come back next week if possible, and we can continue on. And of course, we'll continue with the debate on the Women's Business Connect Global. Every Wednesday we meet for wonderful workshops. Do come and join us. And we'll continue this topic on and on, I'm sure. Thanks so much for coming, and I'll say goodbye and many, many thanks. See you next week. Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you so much. That was wonderful, and we really got to grips with some great questions. This is such an important topic, leadership. We need to open it up and talk about age and talk about, the problems that women have in leadership roles. But most importantly, from my point of view, this is all about embodiment, and the body has all the answers. We can thrash around in our minds and try and analyze the reasons for burnout and the reasons for leadership failing. But in fact, the body knows everything. Thank you so much. This is Lyndon Thorpe on Lodestone Q&A, Lodestone 1 Q&A. We'll be back next Friday, same time, same place. Thank you so much.